All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to maybe the most anticipated TDS film room of all time. I mean, I think it's safe to say that. I'm your host, Nathan Bond, joined alongside me, Seth Varnadore, as we break down multiple things this week. We've got some really fun stuff from Travis Trickett, the offensive coordinator for USF, in their game against Tulsa. And then we break down what Deion Sanders does at Jackson State, because as we've learned this week, Seth, Deion Sanders has been talked to at USF. There's been discussions about USF, a lot of consternation about USF. A lot of pundits think USF is a great fit for Deion. Mm-hmm. So we have to break down this Jackson State offense that has led they're 11-0 heading into the SWAC championship. Yeah, it's a fun offense.
Yeah, I think they're top 10 in the country in scoring, or pretty close to it. And they're really good on defense too. But we've got some stuff from the offense. Not a ton. It's hard to find really good video. Even them, they get on TV at a good bit, but it's still hard to find pretty good video on them at that level. But we've got some. Can kind of show you a little bit of what they like to do.
And then we pair Deion Sanders' high-octane offense with Jamey Chadwell's Coastal Carolina offense that's high octane, but it's a different speed, right? It's triple, but a lot of fun. It's a fun triple option, and I'm here for it all day, every day.
Yeah, it's kind of a hidden triple option, and we'll get to it. They do a lot of different stuff, but the option stuff is what makes it unique, and it's really it's something that with Florida athletes you think would be pretty difficult for anybody to stop, and a lot of fun to watch, which would be exciting.
Plus, if you can get that mullet down to Tampa, I mean, he'll fit right in.
That's true. He's ready to go. This guy is.
I'm in Pasco County right now. He would fit right in right away. All right, and then you got Hernando, you got Polk. Like, he's going to fit right in. There's certain areas of Hillsborough. If you go to Plant City, he'll fit right in. So that's a fun offense.
He's ready.
So, yeah, he's ready. We picked Deion and Jamey Chadwell's offense because they're the most fun. I think, Seth, you had your top three. Hire them if they're attainable options when we did our hot board.
Yes.
And these were the top two. Well, lo and behold, Deion Sanders is a legitimate option for USF right now. By all accounts, he's in between USF and Colorado. It seems like Colorado's offered him a pretty nice care package of sorts, Big 12 money, Pac-12, Pac-12 money, Pac-12 TV, Pac-12 everything. But does he want to live in Colorado where it's really just a bunch of affluent white people? That's going to be up for debate.
It's a bunch of hippies. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah, Boulder is just a bunch of hippies.
It's a bunch of hippies, and then like Ed McCaffrey's family.
And he just got fired, so who knows? Who knows?
He might leave the state. So I mean,
exactly. He just moved to California, go hang out with Christian. Who knows?
It's gonna be slim pickings, I think.
It's gonna be real slim pickings. So. But before we get to that, Seth, we've kind of talked about all season. We've done the film rooms, breaking down the games. After Jeff got fired, we kind of shifted because honestly, and it's maybe it's not doing the offense any favors by doing this. But, I mean, this offensive staff is more than likely not going to be here, so we've kind of shifted away. But what Travis Trickett was able to do at Tulsa last Friday night was pretty remarkable. And, I mean, basically all season, he has the 43rd ranked offense at SP+. It's just his defense has been terrible to kind of I mean, we've talked about this all season long, but he did some really cool stuff on Friday night that kind of kept USF in the game. So we're going to break that down, then we'll get into Deion and then get into the Coastal offense. So let's start. Byrum Brown, first start on the road in the cold at Tulsa without Xavier Weaver. Let's hit it.
Yeah, and Trickett's been great. And one thing I like about him is that I think he understands – this is one thing – this was my only criticism really of Kerwin back in the day. I don't think he understood how thin the ice Charlie was on.
Right.
So in his mind, he was setting a foundation for the future in the offense, right?
The next year.
They didn't go to a ton of gimmick stuff because they're like, hey, we got to get our offense in because we're going to be here for a while because they had a 2-year contract at least, right? So I think Trickett understood the thin ice Jeff Scott was on after the start and has been like, you know what? We're just going for it. We're going to do whatever we can. Screw laying a foundation. We'll do that too, but we're also going to pull out trick plays. We're going to do whatever we can to kind of maximize. And that's kind of two different sides of the coin there. But he's really gone for it here, and he kind of knows maybe his time's limited, so this is a tryout, and he's getting some national attention. Bud Elliott bet the USF under 23.5 team total last week. That was one of his locks on his podcast, and so he came out and gave Trickett some love this weekend and on his show this week as well. So we'll start here. Just a little boot. What I like about it, it's an interesting way to run it. So he's going to run a takeoff. He's the motion guy. He's going to kind of follow that and trail him. You got the deep crosser. Then you also got this tight end coming across. So you end up getting a couple guys you could probably throw to here. This is a nice, easy throw for the quarterback. He could try to lay this one on here coming across. But right in his vision, take it right now. That's a nice, easy throw there. 2nd and 7, pick up a first down, easy. And that's all kind of manufactured by the play.
Chris Matillo, never late, just early. Robert Steig.
That's right. We all laughed at him. And now he's probably going to be the leading fantasy point getter at tight end. So Steig, once again, is correct. I loved this wrinkle here of having them both in the backfield. We saw with Marsh last week, they had him in the Temple game. They had him in the pistol and then motioned him out so that you didn't have time to adjust to the Wildcat. Here, they just line him up and they just bump the quarterback over to where the back is actually behind center. Then they fake the pitch to him. You get enough play here and kind of lean in there for this counter coming back the other way off the Wildcat, but you don't really show the Wildcat look. Then good run here by Mikey Dukes.
I mean, that's a great cut. What, at 2 yards shy of the first down?
Yeah.
That's just a hell of a cut by Mikey Dukes. And it seems like the coaching staff really trusts him in the Wildcat offense to beat that guy. And, last week I think we kind of discussed like there was a fumble in the Wildcat as they were kind of moving the ball down, but it was, to be fair, a pretty bad snap from center Brad Cecil, who has been steady for 18 and a half years. So, once in a while it's okay.
Yeah. And when you have, that's the thing, when you don't get a ton of snaps, he was still trying to, pick it up and like carry out the read. If he would have just more experience getting those, just fall on it, go to the next play, right? But that'll be something they get. Well, here he is right here. Here's a good snap. Gives the jet, nice jet look. Oh, wait, here comes the quarterback back around. Flip it back to him, and you're going to get Sean Atkins wide open. Good and bad here. The bad is you kind of, if you had thrown this better, it probably would have been a touchdown. The good, you made sure it was completed, which is the number one thing, right? You don't want to get this thing where you got this guy perfectly wide open, and then you try to throw a perfect pass and just throw it 15 yards over his head. Right there, hold him up, which we've seen happen. Like, a guy's wide open, you miss it. Hold him up, make sure you get it, and pick up a big play. So 1st and 10, you run a jet reverse pass, and then you come back the next play. Hey, why not? Let's go flea flicker. So here, arc release, like we're going to do some type of quarterback read, and then he leaves him. Then you turn around and do the flea flicker. And he gets open, good ball, easy money touchdown. So again,
the confidence right there, Byrum Brown, to throw to Chris Matillo, who is, by all accounts, your third string tight end.
Well, hey, they might have been getting a ton of time in practice together, so they may have some chemistry there,
Sean Atkins went for over 100 yards, so maybe you're right there. Yeah, it was kind of the thing that we kind of talked about.
He was actually playing with his first group of receivers for the most part here.
Right.
So
he just got the added wrinkle of Jimmy Horn.
Yeah, underrated part here. He actually gets plays receiver he practiced with all year.
Yeah. And Travis Trickett completely in his freaking bag, running 2 basically flea flickers back to back.
Yes.
I don't think, like Seth, and I say this genuinely, I don't think I've ever seen an offense actually run 2 flea flickers back to back
Yeah.
when they were both successful like that. Like I've seen it done once, and maybe they like try something, funky the next play or vice versa. To have it chunk gain and then touchdown is it's damn near remarkable. And when I say Travis Trickett has been in his bag all season long, this is what I'm talking about, folks.
Yeah, he's been great. Sleeping. He might sleep in a sleeping bag. He's in his bag so often. So here we're going to arc here. So we're going to read him. And now we're also bringing him to the party and also the receiver, but it's Holden Willis in motion to the party. So you get the read there. He goes inside. Now I can turn back for that. He just got to he ends up pinning him inside. Good block here by Holden Willis coming across. And now you got the edge. So another good design, getting 3 blockers really
right
out in front, reading that guy. Then good run by Byrum Brown there to pick up some.
This was the part of Byrum Brown's repertoire that we kind of already knew about, right? He was a really good athlete. I think the thing that surprised me most, because he was really the 4th-string guy going into fall camp. His passing acumen was top notch. I know he was really good in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And maybe it's me being pessimistic about the talent in North Carolina, but or maybe because I know how good Florida talent can be.
Yeah.
I didn't trust the transition, and man, he blew me out of the water. His accuracy, the way I don't know if we'll get to it, but there's a ball that he puts to Sean Atkins on the far sideline that is just, it's right over the defender's head. It plops it right in there. It's like, okay, you've sold me. I'm in. This is that dude.
Yeah, he's a player, man. And 3,000. I think his senior year he went 3,000 passing, 1,000 rushing. So, anyway, North Carolina is a little underrated. They are one of the states that you want to pull players from. So it's like Florida, and then in the South, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, and the Carolinas. You can win a ton of games if you just pull guys from those 5 states. And that was, I think, one of Jeff Scott's things is getting into the Carolinas a little bit because they are underrated, and he has some connections there. So here, you're just running like a little stick, slot fade, RPO look. Guy comes in, put it on him. Good job. I thought Holden Willis has been doing pretty well with extended playing time. A lot of the guys on offense that are getting more chances to play are doing pretty well.
Right. And Holden Willis was the guy. I think it was Jeff Scott's first signing day where he was like, "You're going to look up in 3 years, be like, holy crap, Holden Willis, this is a guy."
Yeah. And where did he come from?
We're seeing it. He's the guy who will block downfield for 15, 20 yards, get you an extra 3 or 4 yards downfield, and then he won't mind going over the middle. And he's got sure hands
against SMU.
He's not afraid to go over the middle, and that's kind of what you want. And it's so, we make fun of it, but like those lunch pail workman like guys, like you need them on the offense. Like there was a story out, I think it was this week, about how Julian Edelman nearly went to a different team because the Patriots had signed Danny Amendola because they basically filled the same role. But that role is so vital for a lot of offenses, and Holden's kind of filling that in right now, and it's been pretty fun. He's a big body dude who's a bit of a tweener, but he does his role very effectively.
Yeah, I think that, and he provides an interesting. I think the way football is going is guys that are flexible and can play multiple positions, like a big-bodied receiver that maybe could get a pinch in as like an H-back every now and then. That'll be really valuable because if you want to go no huddle, well, now I can line Holden Willis up at H-back one play, and the next play he's out wide at receiver. The next play he's playing in the slot, and I don't have to change personnel, so you can't substitute. So as he gets, in the weight program even more and more, and you can tell he's already gotten a lot bigger since he's been on campus. He's a guy that as he grows stronger and stronger, they're going to be able to use him in a ton of ways. So he'll be a fun one to watch. Here he's kind of running off. You get Horn coming underneath here. Again, it looks to be an RPO the way the blocking's up top. They throw it behind him. Great throw, great catch here, and good run after catch. Just beaten. You get a blitz, and it looks like a man coverage. Flies to the back, opens up the space here for the slant. Thank you very much. You had slot fade up top, so you could have worked it to horn if you liked it. It's kind of find your matchup you like, and this is a good one. When the middle of the field clears out, put it on him, let him run and catch.
You can't give Sean Atkins that kind of room and not expect him to score a touchdown, ladies and gentlemen. That's just facts.
That's correct.
He is Bryce Miller 2.0 in that regard.
Yes, he's done quite well every time he gets an opportunity. So here we get a little bit of a counter, but it's almost like this is actually an interest. So this is a really interesting wrinkle right here. So they're running counter. This is something you saw Ole Miss do last year with Corral. He's actually running a route. He's running like a go route. I think if this guy feels right now, he can pull back and throw it to the back here. Watch the back. He runs with him. You see how he's still kind of eyeing it over here? And I'm not sure if he's here or if he's here, but he's eyeing downfield. And right here, he could pull this thing back if this guy was filling or if he's filling and throw this. You can see how this would get open.
Right.
Instead, the guy falls off, so he runs it. So this is technically an RPO as well here. So you've got
a pretty elongated RPO, right?
Yes, but this is if you watched Ole Miss last year against Louisville to open the season, they ran that for a touchdown, I believe. So just another little wrinkle here. You run jet, fake to the back, and then pitch behind it. Just trying to a bunch of misdirection, see if you can get them. You don't get a ton out of this, but pick up 5 or 6 on 2nd and 8. Get yourself in a 3rd and manageable. And then once you Byram's run a few times, and now you get to unleash Petit, and he's a nightmare for defenses. He's so good at stopping and starting and just being able to go full speed and not really having to lose much in and out of cuts. And we'll see later on the toss. He just breaks somebody off.
Brian Petit on turf is unfair.
That's a tough one to deal with.
That's a tough one. Him and Jimmy Horn on turf it seems to be unfair.
Yeah. So a nice little pin pull
this
scheme.
one right here.
You got Holden Willis coming down inside, and then you got 2 guys basically pulling outside. Reed and him, he was in conflict all night. The nice job, untouched in the end zone. Good read. And that's what he did a pretty good job reading the run game too. He kind of, who knows, maybe they were just telling him to pull. They were calling the pulls, but if he's reading it, he did a good job reading it. All right, 1st and 20. What do? I'm just going to throw a dart over the middle between 4 guys to Marion Dollison here. So just, the conviction to throw this thing and then to put it right on him. Great catch by Dollison, not being afraid to kind of go over the middle there.
OD's a dog, bro. We've loved him for 3 years now, and I think that the trust in Travis Trickett to on 1st and 20, you're throwing over the middle deep for what it ends up being an 18-yard gain. I mean, that's a 15, 16-yard route. I mean, I love that for him.
Yeah, not just trying to let's see if we can get back 5 yards on the ground. Just go for it. See what you can get, and then again using motion and misdirection, trying to hold people. And Batiste so good once he gets past the line of scrimmage. He's really good.
I think
behind of finding the hole, and then
the wrinkle that if you want to go back a couple plays to Batiste's run on the 2nd and 2 right there. So the thing with Sean Atkins, right? So we kind of discussed about the Florida game. They basically used Jimmy Horn as he's decoy. Just a distraction. He's a decoy. He's not doing anything. But over the last 4 or 5 weeks, you've seen Sean Atkins run these kind of routes, and it turns out to be a pass. So now you've kind of got to stay home a little bit just in case, and that's going to open up some holes there. And I'll be perfectly honest. Hold on, Seth. So I texted the family group chat, "Hey, I need some beer." Guess who brought me the beer? It was Brody.
There you go. You got to teach him young.
I mean, God, this family is fantastic. Great job, bud. That's a helmet sticker right there for Brody Bond right there.
Right.
But you kind of see that, like the safety the safety at the first down marker kind of sits, waits. The safety kind of waits, and then you get Batee out in the open. I think that's the wrinkle that we didn't have earlier in this year.
Yeah, and he's kind of waiting, and right here he's kind of waiting because of the threat of the pull here too. So not only do you have the threat of the motion, you have the threat of the quarterback pulling it, and that holds him a little bit. You can see how he kind of blitzes kind of ferociously at first, then kind of slows down to get controlled, and that's enough to get him blocked. And now you get Batee in space, and he's going to do something with it. Pick up a first down. Then didn't catch here at the beginning, but you had the toss fake here. Horn was there. Now he goes to the middle, takes people eyes with him. You've been arcing the tight end. Well, now here he goes on like the wheel right there. Nobody around him. Easy money up the seam.
I mean, we talk about Chris Matillo, but like Jason Littlejohn, 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks? I mean, he may be the guy.
All he does is catch touchdowns. At Chris Carter back in the day. So here we go. 2-point conversion, just a little speed option flip, and then love the pump fake here. This poor guy had no chance.
He had literally no chance on that. Like none.
Once he cleared that guy, it was
the T got around 94. I was like, oh yeah, he's scoring. There's no doubt in my man. He's scoring on that one.
And then Byrum here, I think he turns the wrong way, but the presence of mind just to be like, okay, yeah, the run's supposed to happen over here. I'll just try to go find it, and he does a good job. Picks up. So the guy's a player. He was not rattled.
I mean, unconventional way of following your blockers, right?
Yeah, and this is Batee just doing. His feet are so good, just finding the hole, and then just constantly changing speed, stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. It's a nightmare. And here you got a nice little mesh concept on third down. Drop it off to Atkins. Great run after catch there. Taking a page out of Batee's book with the spin move. And then good job just dropping it to him. Not waiting. Just, hey, he's open now. Give it to him. 2nd and 10 after our first incompletion of the game. RIP the completion streak. You get the toss, and this is where like you get Batee out in space. Crack. So crack here. And he's coming to kick, hopefully. Good luck. It's just he does not have to slow down to cut. It's really makes him a nightmare. And you see that. And that's the final play from the USF game. So really good stuff. All of it, you can see like the concepts build on each other. Like the toss there, but you had the toss fake earlier that went to Littlejohn for the touchdown. So kind of stuff is tied together. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Let's go back on screen for a second, kind of wrap up the USF-ness of it all.
All right. Let's go here.
Seth, that we've really kind of harped on that this offense is a lot of fun. And it seems like the last 2 coaching cycles, right? Charlie Strong getting fired, now Jeff Scott getting fired. There were plays to be had on offense in 2019 that just weren't made because maybe the team wasn't good enough. The offense in 2022, they're making the plays. I mean, they're a legitimate top 50 offense. And honestly, we'll discuss Deion and the Coastal offense, but more than likely, Travis Trickett will not be in Tampa next year. And that's the unfortunate part, right? It's the thing we talked about on the podcast maybe 4 weeks ago. Like, yeah, you can pull the trigger, but this is going to affect 70 plus guys. And this is one of the guys. Yeah. This is one of the guys who you were like, damn, I wish it had worked out better. It's like Kerwin Bell and Cade. Like we love what they were doing because we were breaking down the film every single week. Like, the plays are freaking there. Yeah. And on the offense side of the ball, this year at least, the plays were there and they were being
and they had the guys to make them too.
And they were actually being made. So you're just like, damn, and just a tough break. Like if it was a year sooner, maybe things are different. And it's really tough for me to kind of distinguish that. Like if both the offense and defense were bad, it'd be so much easier. But like, it's just such a bad break. It's such a tough break. Travis finally gets back into play calling duties right after 4 or 5 years of not being the guy, and he shows out. Like,
I think he's made some money. He's made
fantastic.
some money for himself. I think this is kind of what, and back in my conspiracy brain, this is what Michael Kelly was hoping would have happened when he hired Kerwin. Is that
Right.
Unfortunately they didn't have the guys on offense to execute.
They didn't have the horses,
but I think that's what he was hoping. I think that's what he was hoping, is that Kerwin would come in, the offense would be great. If he had to fire strong, he could just slide Kerwin right in and just say, "Hey, the offense is great." They just didn't have the guys to do it. Trickett was doing it.
But just a year too early. But
yeah,
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if Kerwin's even been approached by USF, but we've talked about it. Like, what's your resume? Like, if the first thing you talk about, if Kerwin does get an interview or talk to, it's, I wanted Tank Dell and you guys said no, and I recruited your only All-American.
Yeah.
Give me the job.
And some of you guys said no.
Some people who are still on staff said no to Tank Dell. And he is second in the American with like 1,100 yards, and he's gonna be a Sunday player. So that's
he's
the
got
frustrating
I
part.
think he's got 2,300 yards and 25 touchdowns the last 2 years.
Yeah,
or something to that effect. So he's pretty good.
It makes me ill. It makes me ill, Seth. I'll be honest. And
yes, Kerwin loved Battee. Because he knows how to use Kerwin. The group he inherited had no explosiveness,
none,
and he just wants explosiveness. He knows how to get guys in open space and get the ball in their hand. And then when he's got explosive players, he knows they're gonna make plays. So yeah.
So I see the Kerwin was in love with Battee comment. Yeah, he nearly damn near committed a recruiting violation talking about Brian on a podcast that Colin and I had to cut up because legally
he mentioned him by name, right?
Yeah, he was like, the kid we got down from Sarasota, Battee. I mean, he's faster than most of the guys on the roster. And it was that conversation. Like, if you guys go back and listen to that Kerwin Bell interview that Colin and I had inside the Selman Center, it's like, no, we had faster guys at the FCS level. Like, I'm kind of surprised by it. And he wasn't wrong.
No,
he was not wrong by any stretch of the imagination, right? Yeah. And now you finally get the horses in, and it just didn't click on the part that you, honest to God, just needed to be bad, not atrocious.
Yeah, defensively. This offense is finally kind of filling the promise, but I think with Trickett, he's got a shot out. He's a guy that's earned a chance to be retained, obviously. And then if he's not, I think he'll have suitors because of what he's done.
I think so too.
Just look at what he's done with all the injuries and things like just kind of chugging right along. No real drop off. I think he's done an awesome job. So I'm sure he'll land on his feet if he's not retained, but he's awesome. Yeah.
He's got a fan for life with me. Like how I ride for Jose Fernandez, how I ride for Billy Mole, how I honestly ride for Kerwin Bell. Like, Travis Trickett's right in that group, what he's been able to do this year. And a quick stat about what Western Carolina has done this season. So FBS, FCS, right? So the 300-ish teams combined, I guess. Yeah. Only 5 teams have finished the year with over 300 yards passing per game and 180 yards rushing per game in the country. In the FCS level, Western Carolina, Fordham, and Incarnate Word. We've talked about Incarnate Word. JG Kinney is the head coach there, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
We've talked about him. And then at the FBS level, Tennessee and USC. So 5 teams, 300 yards passing, 180 yards rushing per game this season between the 2 divisions. They've done a really good job. At Western, it was they're a bunch of young guys, a lot of injuries at quarterback. Still were able to be effective. Defense kind of let them down, much like USF. Yeah. But that's just something to kind of keep in mind. I don't think Kerwin's a candidate for the job.
No, I think it's too soon after 2019.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about if he doesn't come to USF in 2019, he's probably a prime candidate either now or in the future.
Yeah. I mean, he may have been a candidate. If he didn't come in 2019, it might have been a candidate and when Jeff Scott got the job, and he'd definitely be a candidate now.
Right.
unfortunate timing on his part, and Trickett's kind of see a similar, I think, unfortunate timing. But he was able to, I think, with his ability and his year he put together after not calling plays for such a long time, he'll have some opportunities. All right, let's get
into it. Let's go. Deion Sanders time. Seth, you kind of
there's not as much here, but
you kind of talked to me. It was a bit air raidy, would be a fair assessment.
Yeah. So his first year, I'm not sure who had his first year, but he didn't think the passing offense was quite good enough. I sure hope that NFL coach is not a real option. I don't think that's real, Eric. I don't know why you'd hire. I don't know the guy. Maybe he's a really good coach, but a guy that's been a 15-year position coach in the NFL without being, I don't think he's ever been elevated to a coordinator position.
15 years as a position coach. Why?
Yeah, why would you elevate him to a head coach? And he hasn't been in the college game in 15 years when it's changed a lot from 2 years ago. So, yeah, that would be
a coordinator.
Yeah, that would be, and he has interim experience as well. So, Deion. So. I think if he comes in, it depends on kind of who he brings with him, I think, on your record next year. But his initial year, he didn't think they threw the ball well enough, and he knew he was going to bring in his son at quarterback, so he obviously wanted to have a better passing game.
Right.
So they went out and got an air raid guy. They got a guy that I think played for Mike Leach at Washington State, kind of coached with him there a little bit. But he's an air raid guy. So they have some air raid principles in the offense. There's not a ton of film here. So – some of it is, it's kind of what I could find for a couple of games that are on YouTube, pulling highlights and stuff out of the games. But you got a little trick play to start here. This one looks a little familiar. You got a little trick play, flea flicker type thing. There, they do a good job. They end up scoring a touchdown there. Their run game, they'll run some gap stuff. So you see they've got Puller coming back, like some long trap type stuff. Not too. That's a part of some of the air raid stuff. This is a guy that's not a big time recruit here. That's just a guy that's playing pretty well for them at running back. I think he was a JUCO guy. Here you get a little mesh action, and you have the back on the wheel here. So you have the back on the wheel, and these two guys are crossing. You can kind of go with whatever you want here. Could go to the back. He drops it down to the receiver. He gets in. This kid's a transfer from Ohio University. He's from Florida, but he went to Ohio University.
Go Bobcats.
Yeah. So then running through on a slot fade, getting him to turn, and then coming underneath that on the slant right there, getting this guy open. Again, it's the air. So before Jeff Scott was fired, and we were kind of talking about it as a possibility. I kept saying, you know what, just hire an air raid guy. I want to see a big time scheme guy. Well, if you get a pure air raid offensive coordinator and Deion Sanders as the head coach, that's a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good combination because you're kind of thinking, I don't want to hire a recruiter. All right, well, Deion's probably the best recruiter you could hire.
Right.
But I want a scheme guy. Okay, well, they're running the air raid. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. And you can see. It
seems like he's not going to meddle in the offense, right? He is.
I think he went out and they're doing air raid concept. So here's smash. Here they're running kind of a similar look. It could be so air raid teams will run this, and you'll see it later, like a snag concept. But he's going to throttle for a second and then go and hit this open zone. So they end up throwing it up here, which is it's a fine read. It's a corner bails. You can throw it. But there's also where he's actually curls up here. But he's running into the space here. So I like that.
The linebackers,
right behind the check down. So and you can see this guy's pointing at, hey, we could have thrown that one too. So I like there. It's not just static. There is some air raid elements to it. Here's some an RPO look right here. Again, you're pulling a guy up front. The backer fills, throw it out there. Same thing here. They don't match numbers. Throw it out there. Just easy completions, easy throws. Here's 3rd and 11. This is an RPO, or 4th and 11 rather, an RPO. How about this decision? They're not gonna punt it. Run it, pick up a big gain. but that's all off an RPO action. So here's a little boot action against Alcorn State. So go route here. He's running a deep out. He's in the flat. See a little flood concept off the boot. And some of these players would be possibly coming with him, maybe, depending. Here's that snag concept. This is an air raid staple. Flat. I think the air raid guys call it Y corner. Great for finding spots in the zone, creating triangles in the passing game. Oh, I put this one because maybe this guy might come with him too. That's Travis Hunter. He was the number 1 or number 2 recruit in the country a couple years ago. There's him on defense. I got a clip of him on offense. Here's another boot as well. So I think the offense is definitely air. Now that I read the coordinator is an air raid guy, definitely see that air raid influence. Air raid's got 4 verts. So they're not afraid to take shots down the field. There's a nice catch. And then, here's Travis Hunter again playing offense. He did drag the toe here. So that was a touchdown. So pretty good. That's kind of all I could grab from 2 games with them. I think, I would say it's probably going to be, if we go back here, it's probably going to be an exciting offense. Chadwell's coming up. Eric Chadwell's next. So no, I think but I think he's got some good players, but he's also it's not like some of the guys that transferred in, like I can't. He had a kid. Travis Hunter's not playing a ton on offense, I don't think. His top 2 receivers are one's a Western Illinois kid, transfer from Western Illinois. The other is a transfer from Ohio. He had a 4-star freshman that signed. He's not like leading the team in receiving or anything. And he had a kid, Malachi Weidman is from around here. He transferred from Tennessee. He was a longtime Florida State commit. He's not doing a ton either. So I think they're doing some good stuff schematically, and they're really good offensively and defensively. I think having some more talent is helpful, but it's not just like they're throwing go routes every play and out-talenting people totally. There is some scheme stuff to the team. Right, both sides of the ball. So, like air raid, that's pure scheme. Like that's, that's like that's you see teams with lesser talent win with the air raid. So when you can put some talented guys into it, it could be really interesting. So, I'm a big fan of the air raid as a system because it seems to be those guys are good no matter what. So yeah,
and it seems like it really hasn't permeated to the G5 level, so to speak. Like it's kind of been at the upper levels. I mean, at least I haven't really seen it. Like
I think they all get hired. They all get hired. If an air raid guy is at a lower level, he seems to get hired. Like Kitley took a big time version of it to Western Kentucky for a year, and then got hired immediately by Texas Tech.
Right.
So I mean
that was just Texas Tech's root. That's Texas Tech's roots, right? Like they're going to sling it around regardless, right? And what's interesting to me, and kind of touching on the comment from Bob Dole there, is it about just having a more talented roster? The thing, if Deion comes to Tampa and coaches at USF, he's not going to have the genuine pool of, hey, we're going to turn this HBCU into a powerhouse, right? So there's a lot of guys who, I mean, for good reasons, want to be like, yeah, I want to be the guy who went to the HBCU and, was the next Shannon Sharp, the next Terrell Owens kind of person. USF, I mean, for obvious reasons, USF doesn't have that kind of cachet. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic of, okay, well, you can be the first to be like the top guy at the HBCU, or you can be just a guy at an FBS team.
And they've also been able, just because they're at a lower level, it's also kind of some of the testing and now I don't know where those standards are going. It seems like those are in flux, but I know they've been able to get some guys at the 1AA level that didn't qualify at the 1A level.
Right.
So that you're not gonna be able to do that either. But I think wherever he goes he'll be a transfer destination for a lot of guys.
Right.
His name carries a ton of weight. And he does some interesting stuff schematically. It's not just like he's hired some good assistants and let them do their thing. So
And
I think he wants to be like a CEO head coach, handle the
but
talent,
like
handle
not
the team.
not Herm CEO.
No, I think he knows what's going on.
Yeah, right. I don't think his assistant coaches are going to be sabotaging them.
No, I
for
don't
the
think
most
so.
part.
They seem to enjoy him, and that seems to be one of his big sticking points. He wants to be able to pay his guys, so that always helps too.
USF paid. I mean, Jeff Scott's assistant coaches pool was pretty hefty. They paid their assistant coaches pretty damn well.
Yeah.
I don't think money's an object for USF. If we're being totally honest here, I think they're willing to shell out some shekels to get a top caliber guy like Deion in, to let him bring in his assistants, because I think as we've kind of alluded to, Deion's the guy, but if he doesn't have the assistants behind him, it's shallow, it's hollow maybe, and he's been able to do that. I think we've talked about over the last few weeks. Deion fired his first OC like within the first year, right, and then found a new guy, and the offense kind of took off. So he's not afraid to pull the trigger early when it's necessary.
Well, what's interesting is he's got a guy on staff as an analyst that I think he's maybe waiting until he can pay him at a bigger job. He's got Mike Zimmer on staff as an analyst. You want to talk about upgrading your defense?
Like Mike Zimmer, like the Vikings, that Mike Zimmer?
Yes, he's an analyst at Jackson State right now.
Wow, I did not know that. That's pretty awesome. I mean,
yeah. So like, there's thought that maybe he's doing that, so he's gonna go and join him as like the DC or something whenever he gets his next job. So that would be you want to talk about being able to upgrade your defense pretty quickly.
Oh, so Zimmer was an assistant coach with the Cowboys and Falcons between the 94 to okay, so that makes sense. Him and Deion go way back, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, but Zimmer's had, even as a head coach, he had some good defenses with Minnesota. So, like, you want to talk about like a nice
right? It was just the
1-2 punch there. Yeah,
fumbles around.
All right, let's get to what I have a lot more film on, and I think it's one of the most fun offenses in the country. Now, these cut-ups are from 2020. But not much has changed. I think they may be a little bit more heavy in some of the RPO stuff, but this is Coastal Carolina back when they had it really rolling in 2020. So we'll go through here real fast. We'll start with the run game. They run some just zone. Here's some zone run. They had a good back, too, and a good offensive line. So here's zone again. So just kind of your base zone. Here's a little split zone action. So you're running zone this way, bringing the tight end back across, the H-back back across, kick out. Good. And they've had really good offensive lines there. They have guys that are like 5'8", 280 pounds, but they're just dogs and can play really well. They had this guy. This was helpful, Grayson McCall. Now, he has a year of eligibility left. So there's thoughts that either after this season he may transfer to a Power 5 school, or maybe if Chadwell gets another job, he could follow him.
Mm-hmm. And
I don't know if that's the case at USF, but he's a good player, and the quarterback really makes this thing go.
Seth, you saying that he's a good player is probably the understatement of every single thing that we've talked about over the last 2 years. Like Grayson McCall is that freaking dude.
Yeah, and wait, it's going to get better. So here's the triple options. Here's some triple stuff. So they'll run. It's just basically zone. It's the lines blocking like zone stuff that we just looked at, and now the quarterback, when he reads it, he can pull it and throw it, or he can pull it and kind of really run the option. So here they give it, and they use this coupled with some tempo. Eyes right there, and now I'll throw it. He's the pitch guy with the throw, but it's still triple option. You got to dive, right? So my dive guy, my keep guy, my pitch guy is right there. It's still triple option, just make it look a little different. And then they'll do something that looks a little bit more like the triple option you're used to seeing. And all this coupled with tempo is a real nightmare.
So on that last play, like in NCAA 14, I would have pitched it like 15 yards downfield because I'm that person. I'm that person. Like I think I could do better. Like right there. I'm pitching it.
That's right. And then another look at the triple. Now both the guys fly outside here. So now it's an easy give read. And when you got safeties and everything trying to fill for the pitch outside, I mean, we've watched Navy play, right? Like you see these guys just come out of nowhere. Now they're cracking and arcing for the pitch.
If you guys remember, the arc was a big issue for USF in that 2018 Georgia Tech game. They hammered that home all day long for Georgia Tech. The thing that kind of swayed that game was the 2 Terrence Horn kickoff returns, but also Nico Sautel forced a fumble. I think it ended up being on an arc pitch, but that triple option arc is really difficult for defenses to get enough guys out there to make it matter, and it caused USF fits all day that day.
Here's another look at it, a different look, right? So this guy is actually the dive guy in the behind, and then he becomes the pitch guy out here. And if I didn't give this, I could just turn and throw it to this guy out here, and you see they're blocking like that. So a lot of triple option principles. Sometimes it looks like the triple option you know and love. Sometimes it looks a little different. This one's pretty sick. So, like, a lot of fun. And then on the goal line, love to do a little trap. Or I think it's the center comes down. This was like, no, this one's the guard. They do something where they do one where they pull the center. They really like on the goal line as well. Little speed option off the read look first.
And we saw a little bit of that this year with a little speed option. Not as much as later in the year, but
this is what Mikey Duke scored on against Florida. The speed, the show it and then go. And then this guy's an animal. And then they'll do some straight speed option, no speed, no reader, just go. Up top, arc, pitch off him. Make guys run. So, like, Brian Batiste is the pitch man right there, so that looks pretty good. Then here you go, midline. Almost like midline here where I'm reading an interior guy, and then I'm trapping as well.
Right.
So interesting look.
For all you NCAA 14 fans, midline read never literally
that
never
was
worked.
So
you never ran it. You literally never ran it. It was one of those plays where you just never ran it. And as an aside, I wish I could show you guys. My sister-in-law she's just piling random things onto the table that I'm doing this podcast on. So there's a air fryer, there's a paper towel dispenser, there's a Minnie Mouse shopping cart, there's a chair, a literal chair, an air hockey table, just
an air hockey table on the table.
An air hockey table on the air hockey table is on the chair on the table.
Oh, there's levels here.
Yeah, there's levels to this shit for sure. This is what I deal with during Thanksgiving. So there's that.
All right, so now we got load option was basically speed option, but now I have a lead blocker. It's a lot of fun to watch them. And then you throw in a little jet. So a lot of like motion. We talked about motion misdirection. Here's the center trap. A lot of motion, a lot of misdirection, going fast. Here's another center trap. Here's some RPO stuff.
And Seth, forgive me if I'm being callous or stupid or whatever. Oh, there's a one of those cinnamon brooms now. Just adding to it. So center trap, you want an athletic center to be able to do that. Like you're not swinging around like a 360-pound center on this kind of stuff, right?
Probably not. You'd have to have a guy that can. You'd have to have a guy that can because just snapping and stepping is difficult. So,
Right.
you have to have a guy that's got some athleticism, I think.
So would you say that Dustin Hall, who is the backup center and also part-time your starting right guard,
Might be a guard.
do you think he'd be...
Might stick with the guard trap. I don't. I don't know. I haven't seen him.
I'm talking about in the future, because more than likely your guards are pulling more often than your centers.
Yeah.
So
he was. So their center was the guy that was like. I think their center was the guy that was like 5'9", 2'8". Like he was considered really short. Like, but he was strong as an ox.
So
he was a smaller guy. He was a smaller guy. Yeah, small for college football. He was like, he was not like a massive dude, but he had that dog in him, just like you do. Here you go, RPO. So you start feeling for run. We'll just throw that right behind your head. Same thing here. You don't feel? All right, we're just gonna give it. You don't feel? We're gonna give it. But if you have a guy that can make good decisions there with all this stuff, here's another one. You feel? I'm throwing.
God, right? Man, the torque on that throw! Holy crap! He was
in that. He can rip it.
He can rip it. He can freaking rip it. Holy cow!
RPO. And
Brody,
this one.
What do
this
you
one's
real
fun.
quick, Brody? What do you think about the Jamey Chadwell offense?
It's starting now.
Oh,
yeah, I agree.
So this one's interesting. Run like a quarterback. Like it looks like a quarterback draw with the back as the lead blocker. It's really an RPO. As soon as this poor linebacker steps up to meet the blocker right here, watch him. Oh, it's quarterback draw. Let me step up and meet the blocker. Oops! Oh my goodness, the running back's run right by me. It's over. So that's a pretty nasty little RPO right there. Then just your normal play action stuff. Off the option looks, get safeties to rotate over, open up holes behind them. Again, with their run game, and this is pretty sweet right here. Leaking the back up the seam off the run look, and this is not McCall. This is their backup. So
big fan of leaking off the back up the seam.
Play action again. You get the crosser. And then he breaks it off. Runs like a post corner here. Showed enough to the post and break him off. And that receiver that caught that right there is from Venice. So they've recruited Florida, all right. Then on the goal line to the back of the end zone here.
That's a good little catch right there.
Yeah. And then you got some Y cross action. Nobody in the middle there. Take it. So you got some Y corner. So these are some air raid pass concepts as well. Y corner. Like I said, everybody runs it. We saw Jackson State run that earlier. This time they hit the corner out. Flood. Again, you saw Jackson State boot to this, but it's just a 3-level flood concept, basically, with a crosser. It's kind of like a Y cross look, really, too, but similar idea. Drive. This is a West Coast concept here with a dig and a shallow underneath. Then he rips it out to the out route or the corner over there. Drive again. So it's not just like option. That's the thing that's different about this offense. It's not just the option stuff. It's the option stuff coupled with an actual pretty good passing game. So like this is straight out of Bill Walsh 1980s 49ers West Coast offense. You got your rubs. So understanding how to beat man coverage, rubs on the goal line, rubs in the field. And when you do all this kind of stuff, here's flood, and then you tag a post on it. When you do all the run stuff, all that motion, all that misdirection crushes safeties. And then here's a look. Makes it look like Y corner and go. If he puts it on him, that's an easy touchdown. This is basically the same one we saw Jackson State run. where that guy looks like he's going to sit for a second, then went. If he puts it on him here, it's an easy touchdown. So they've got like a decent. Then they put the backup quarterback, who's also from Venice, out as slot receiver. So that's an interesting wrinkle. And now we're back to the top. So we're done.
There you go.
That was it for.
We're done.
I think the interesting thing about the most interesting thing about Coastal Carolina is that it's got all the good stuff of your triple option offenses, coupled with tempo, coupled with putting guys in space more often, and coupled with a really good passing game. So it's like, hey, would you like the Navy offense if you could also put a really good passing game with it? And I think everybody would be like, yeah, that'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be a lot of fun.
That's kind of what Coastal is doing.
Right. And we've kind of talked about it before. So their OC Willie Korn is basically, he's the OC, quote unquote. I want to make sure I get the air quotes right.
They have two. They have like a pass game coordinator, run game coordinator. I'm not sure who calls plays though.
It seems like it's Jamey. I
think it's his offense
for sure.
I think, but he's got two co-coordinators. Korn is the quarterback's coach, so but then his other co-coordinator is the running backs coach. So both are pretty important in this scheme
for sure. It seems like that be something that kind of transitions. And the thing is, so if USF goes with Jamey Chadwell and he says, "Yep, I'm in 100%," the question really becomes, okay, does Willie Korn follow, or is he the guy? It could be, because Seth, you could pay me $1 million right now to tell me the name of the other guy at Coastal, and I would lose that, and I would lose my life, because I could not tell. Like, for all intents and purposes, like, so we knew Tony Elliott, Jeff Scott, like those were the two guys at Clemson for sure. And as you and I, we love G5 football. We love the weirdness of college football as it is. I could not tell you who the other guy is at Coastal, and that may tell you about his responsibilities at Coastal, or maybe Willie Korn's got a better agent and better PR. But it's am I right, Brody?
It's like the three tenors. There's Pavarotti, Domingo, and the other guy.
Right. It's like it's the
Newland Isaac is the other guy, and then Chad Staggs is their defensive coordinator. He's been there a while. Maybe he'd get a shot at it, but
it seems like maybe Willie Korn is the guy, because of where Coastal has been. You want to keep some continuity, but now, Jamey and him are clearly very friendly, best friends. What have you? Are you poaching Are you poaching coaches from this? Are you gonna set your guy up, if it is Willie Korn, for failure when you poach Grayson McCall?
Yeah, and McCall's a guy I think he'll be an interesting one to watch, because I don't know if you take the USF job, do you need to bring in? If you can bring in your guy, I guess you do it, but quarterback's probably not the most pressing issue at USF.
No, it's the other. It's
the
other side.
I've heard Bud Elliott say they have a big nose tackle that is a freshman that's a dude. So maybe him.
You pair that big nose tackle with Eddie Kelly, and you got something going.
Maybe him. Maybe and they
right.
You look at their roster, you see it's riddled with Florida guys. So they come into Florida and recruit well. So he's got that. Look at the private chat real quick. But yeah, there's Florida guys all up and down the roster at Coastal. So if he was to be the guy, for sure. Bob Dole's question: on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you think we land either of these guys? Candidly, if we're going to go that with the, I would assume the thousands of people that are watching this right now. I don't know if I can put a 1 to 10 number on it. I'll be honest. I think it's a lot better than we anticipated,
it is.
Right?
It honest to God is, Seth. You're right, and it's the coaches that we've heard that have talked to USF or have interviewed don't inspire much, except for there's a few, right? There's a few guys that we've kind of talked about. I mean, there's a reason why Deion and Jamey Chadwell were the first guys of our potential coaches. I mean, if we're going to be as transparent as we can right now, there's a reason why those two guys were the first two of our let's check out their schemes guys. Right.
Yeah, we've got some Willie Simmons tape too, but we didn't go with him tonight.
Yeah, he got unfortunately he got bumped. And there's that. I'm still a really big fan of Tom Herman and what he did at Texas. I know there's still the stink of you're going to hire another fired Texas coach, but Tom Herman got fired for going to 4 bowl games. It just happened to be the wrong 4 bowl games.
Yeah. And he won all 4, which is interesting. He's a guy that's been Football Scoop put out a report today. And that's what it's been interesting to me is seeing Chadwell's name. Chadwell's name was in that. Those guys are typically pretty connected at Football Scoop. Chadwell and Deion were both in that.
Yeah, they are.
Herman was in that as well. And then a couple other some USF alums were in there. And Jason Candle, who that can't be the hire.
If it's freaking Jason Candle, bro, I'm out. I'm so out. I'm out.
Yeah.
So out. You punt on 4th and 15 from your plus 35, and your net punt was like 10.
They have the best talent in that league every year and go 7-6. So yeah, if you're going to go to the MAC, bring me Sean Lewis or nothing. So I think so. Like just seeing, I was surprised when we saw Chadwell's name at the beginning of the search, and then they have his name is still kind of coming up. He's up for Georgia Tech too, seemingly, but I don't know. I don't know if that's. I think the money may be better, but cultural fit for him and an opportunity to win, I think that's a tough gig.
I think for Georgia Tech fans, I mean, just on the outside looking in,
it's a good hire for them. I just don't know if how interested he would be.
Right. I mean, that fan base was just so ready for the triple option offense to be over with. Yeah. And now, as we went through tonight, it's a completely different kind of offense, but it's still kind of
there's it gets you back in those Georgia high school living rooms.
There's some triggering plays, for lack of a better term, that may give some Georgia Tech fans some pause. And it's so weird because a lot of these big jobs, Auburn, Nebraska, Georgia Tech, have been open for so long. We haven't really seen Jamey's name kind of thrown about, bandied about, and it's so interesting because it seems like they know by now.
That's what I think. Like I think you'd have a pretty good feel where you stand in all these jobs. So the fact that his name's still coming up for USF to me says that maybe there's something there. So I don't know. I think this is I think a lot of people think this is an interesting job, especially with the expanded playoff now and with a bunch of strong teams leaving your conference. There's a real opportunity for somebody to come in here, take this thing up really high in the conference and potentially make the playoff, right? I mean, there's a very real possibility that USF, this could come back to bite me. There's a very real possibility that USF would make the playoff before any of the teams leaving the AAC going to the Big 12 would.
No, you know what? That's not even that much of a stretch just because of the logistics of it, right? You've got to win the Big 12 where there's still I think Kansas is still on the ascension.
I think TCU is going to be pretty good
for
a while.
They're going to be very good. I think Kansas State has kind of figured it out. I think Kleiman's a very good coach. Yeah. Now, if he sticks around for multiple years, that's going to be another question mark. I was listening to Split Zone Duo, Alex Kirshner, Stephen Godfrey, who's very, very connected. Richard Johnson, who's also inherently connected. Also a scratch golfer. Like, do not play golf with him. He will steal your money. they're very connected. And the thing that they talked about this week was it's been pretty quiet with Chris Kleiman as maybe moving up somewhere else. I don't know what the reason for that is, but he was a very good pull for Kansas State, and he's done very well for them. Now you've got the Neil Brown issue. Like, they've got to win this week or West Virginia is going to be open, right? Kansas is a little bit better. There's a couple of other teams.
And they just extended Leipold, so he'll be there for a while.
Lance was 2029, so he's going to be there for what? I mean, you win 6 games in this day and age at Kansas. You are Eric Mangini without the 400-pound bodysuit.
The best picture is him next to the Orange Bowl mascot.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the same person.
Yeah.
Real quick before we get out of here, Seth, because we've gone an hour, and I honestly thought this would be like an hour and a half show, just because of just it's the excitement at this point, right? The offense is really fun currently. It's just the defense sucks.
Yeah.
But now you've got these two potential coaches who diametrically opposed offenses, right? You air raid fundamentals.
Somewhat. I think Deion's definitely more of a spread you out air raid style, it looks, but like Coastal has some of those concepts,
right,
which is what makes them really intriguing.
Florida talent with either one of those schemes is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's something we haven't seen. Yeah, that's the most interesting thing is like there are teams in Florida, there are high schools in Florida that run the air raid.
Right.
There are high schools in Florida that are really good at running the triple, but nobody's kind of run either one of those.
Right.
And at the college level, just look at like when Florida went to the spread under Urban Meyer, it's kind of the first team to go to that really, really run heavy spread. Like the speed they were able to recruit just in state made that offense really tough.
I mean, you didn't go to Lakeland High School because they were going to Florida because of what they were able to do, right? And
their defenses are good enough, Eric. I mean, they've been pretty decent. They've had like really good ones, and then they lost a bunch of guys after that 2020 year. So they've been decent. They've been a lot better than last in the country. So,
right.
And like,
you don't have to be Seth. Technically speaking, we are better than last in the country.
Everything's better than last in the country.
Right.
Let me see where they stand this year on yards per play, just for reference. But they were pretty good. In 2020, they were pretty good. Remember that BYU team? They held them down.
Yes.
In that game. So
I've got 2 questions for as you look up the yards per play. We'll answer that, and then I've got 2 questions for you before we get out of here for the Thanksgiving break, and then we will be live back at Ray J on Saturday for Matt. Honestly, I'm excited to see what the offense does. The defense, I could give her, take it or leave it, much like they also will just leave it. So,
yeah, Coastal's bad this year. Last year, this year they're like in the hundreds. They're 6.1. Last year they were 31st, and the year before, they were 45th. So they've is that
SP plus or what?
That's yards per play.
Yards per play. Okay, got it.
So yeah, this year they're not great, but that's because they graduated a bunch of guys. Well, they have. And
what's their yards per play this year?
It's at 6.1, I think. USF's last in yards per play. USF is at 7.45. They've overtaken Charlotte.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus! Oh my God! So to put it into perspective, honestly,
Coastal Carolina is really bad, and they're a yard and a half back.
Coastal's defense. If USF had Coastal's defense, they're going bowling. If we're gonna they're fighting for a bowl spot, or at least they've got 4 wins. But I've got 2 questions for you, Seth, before we get out of here.
I'm ready.
Number 1, so assuming, and that this is a massive assumption for you.
Big if.
The caveats for whatever. Say no quarterback from either school, Jackson State, Coastal Carolina, comes to Tampa. So you're sticking with Gary Bohannon and Byrum Brown figure out who the two are, but you keep Brian Battie, Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn.
Mm-hmm.
What offense do those guys present the biggest mismatch or interest for you in either offense? The Deion Sanders kind of air raid-ish, or the Coastal Carolina, I'm going to spread you out and run the triple through the shotgun and hit you deep?
Yeah, that's interesting. Coach Chadwell is my number one guy because of the offense, but it's pretty close. Like if it's a true air raid, which it seems like it, I mean, Jimmy Horn and Weaver in a true air raid with Battie as the back with people all spread out is not going to be easy to defend either. So that's what I like watching both these offenses, and you start looking at USF's players in them if this is the possibility. I mean, these guys are ready. I think they can both of them can hit the ground running on offense. Like you're going to return a bunch of a good, decent amount of offensive linemen as well. You could return. I mean, could you return every single skill player that starts, or almost every single? You could return almost every single skill guy in the two deep.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Just about. There's the only real attrition is the offensive line.
Yeah, that's where. But some guys have gotten. If you can kind of make up for those, which you've been able to do a decent job at, when guys have had to come in and plug holes. I mean, you could return basically almost all your entire production from this year of a good offense. And if you either one of these schemes, I think you plug and play, and you could be pretty good. The Chadwell does. I think the Chadwell it might be better because you could also recruit that guy that's maybe not an unbelievable thrower, but a really good runner at quarterback. And still have success with it. I think it's a little more malleable. Where I don't know how that works because Deion Sanders is a pretty good player. So how does it work with a guy that's not quite as good throwing as him, or not a great? How does it work with a guy that's more of a runner? I think Chadwell's can work with more people, so he'd be my pick. But I think both could be really interesting. That's why it's so exciting because you get. You have the potential of really exciting offenses, and then with the Deion factor adds in a whole different layer to it, which is adds in another jolt of energy to the program.
Yeah, you kind of answered my second question. Of the two, who would you kind of pick as the? I mean, we're still a ways away. Michael Kelly preface this. Michael Kelly said, "Hey, we'll hope to have a guy in by December 5th, which we're 12 days away as we're recording at 10:17 on the 23rd of November. So basically 12 days away. I think he's going to have a guy by next Monday, like the Monday after Thanksgiving. I think. Now, am I positive about that? No, but it seems like the rational expected response, and Michael Kelly seems to be the rational expected guy who does the things on the timeline to give whoever the next coach is plenty of time to get their staff sorted, figure out what they want to do. Make sure you do exit interviews. I promise you this. It'll exit interviews.
Listen, coaches are used to being fired. They'll talk to you. They're not going to be mad at you. They'll talk to you. They'll give you good information because it's kind of a courtesy in the profession. I had a buddy that got fired, and he told me he went in his extra interview and said, "Listen, you're not going to hire me. We don't even need to waste time on that. Let me tell you about people around the program, the administration, who you need to talk to, who can get stuff done." Like that stuff happens. So when you don't do it at all, it's like you're just losing a valuable chance to learn about what you're inheriting. So do those exit interviews, please.
And, if you don't do those exit interviews, you may end up winning 4 games in 3 years.
It could happen. It's been known to happen. Oh, no.
Did I say the quiet out loud? No. Oh, Lord.
It's been known to happen.
It's been known to happen. All right, Seth, I appreciate you. I
do want to say one thing. Film.
Go ahead.
They may not hire either of these guys. So
100%. No, 100%.
Let's temper expectations, but I think there's a better chance that we thought that these guys have seemingly been contacted. And And I don't know about Chadwell, but I know Deion's been contacted. But Chadwell's name is up with every article about the job. So somebody's talking about Chadwell in USF. So, but I think the one thing about this is there are some home runs out there. I think these two guys are home runs. There's other really good options. Like if it's not one of these two, it could still be a really good coach. So don't get too upset.
Jamey Chadwell's been contacted.
Oh, I'm not going to hear that anywhere else.
You're not. He's been contacted, but that doesn't mean either one of them are going to get hired.
Yes,
but
I just enjoy the effort. I'm just glad that an attempt was made.
It was.
There was an
attempt. And it's for honest to God, either one of them. Deion. I mean, I said it on Twitter the other day, like, in parentheses, like quietly, like Deion deserves a bigger / better job than USF. I think he's done a fantastic job at Jackson State with the things that have been kind of against him at Jackson State, like the administration, like they were so far behind the times. But that's HBCU coupled with FCS level administration, right? Yeah. But so far behind the times, like I think he donated half of his salary to get this thing done. Like a lot of locker room stuff, like all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like he donated his salary to do that. I mean, he's a multimillionaire and he's got other ventures, right?
He's going to be able to raise
his Aflac money is going to cover his coaching salary.
Talking about raising money for a stadium. This guy's going to help you raise money.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, boy. I mean, if he's not dancing in the end zone in the indoor practice facility to raise some money, then I don't know what we're doing. But this does, just because we picked Deion and Jamey Chadwell's Coastal Carolina offense does not mean they are the top two options. It's just it'd be fun.
They were the top two. They were the top two on the Seth Varnadore big board,
and that's what we really go by because I mean, honest to God, every other hot board's been hot trash. But other than that, y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Be safe. We'll see you guys on Saturday. We will do a post-game show because that's what we'll do because we want to wrap up the season in a nice little bow.
There you go.
Who knows what will happen? It'll be like close to midnight on Saturday night. It's going to be awesome. I love that for us. But Seth, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
I hope you eat as many rolls. I feel like rolls are safe for you. Like you like rolls, like yeast rolls.
Yeah, everyone
You're
likes
okay.
Bread, right? Everyone likes bread.
Seth, after the podcast this week, I don't know what you like. All right, you like
I'm a big,
rolls.
For fear of this being clipped, I'm a big meat guy.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I wish your family well. I hope your wife has Christmas. I hope there are more trees than the 17 you've already told me about.
24. There's enough.
I hope she gets to 30 by Sunday. That is my hope. That is my hope. That is my dream. That's my aspiration. For you
I mean,
your wife.
Once Thanksgiving's over, we may hit the storage facility. So who knows?
I hope that happens.
We're getting there.
Well, I love you, brother. I appreciate you cutting up these clips. It's been wonderful. I'm going to be sad when this is over and we have to actually talk about like real stuff. Like, oh, wow, we actually hired a coach and now we have to like dissect their offense for 6 months. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, maybe it'll be a fun one.
It may. I hope so. But I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody tuning in, listening, joining, commenting along. Eric, Bob, Hector, Matt, Hector, love you, buddy. You're the best. Hope you all have a full Thanksgiving.
If you're in the chat on Facebook.
If you guys are going out, to a bar, get an Uber if you're drinking. For the love of God, we don't need it. We don't need any more unnecessary casualties. Be safe.
Travel
love
safe.
You all.
Travel safe. Go Bulls. Happy Thanksgiving.